Welcome to the GoSwim edition of FINISFriday. I want to thank everyone who participated in our social media contest this week. We had over 100 people tag a friend who need help with their technique. And the winner got a stability snorkel and agility paddles. So I'm going to introduce our special guest, Glenn Mills, in just a minute. But first, a quick note from our founder, John Mix, in the mix.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have Glenn join us today because what Glenn does is he makes us all better. He has so many tools available for such a broad audience, whether we're a coach, or a parent or a swimmer. I've watched his videos and his platform for every single level. And every time I watch them, it's just perspective. So I love it. That was my request. Like, let's get Glenn on here and make sure that the rest of the world, can have a deeper look at what he does, because there's so many ways to apply it. I know in the contest, we talked about, tagging somebody and we did a little giveaway, to improve. And so I'm just going to do a show and tell. We talked about the snorkel, and the reason why the snorkel is such a great tool. Number one, it allows you to swim really, really slow perfectly, because you can't really swim really, really slow perfectly because you sink and your body position changes. But all these other sports, when we're able to practice something slowly and mindfully, it sinks in. And that's one of the things I like doing with the snorkel is doing drill work, doing really mindful work, really relaxing and thinking about what I'm doing. And you can do it really, really slowly. So if you've never tried swimming slow with a snorkel, try it. It's cool. The other product that we said was the agility paddles. A neat thing about the agility paddle now is they float. So if you don't have the new pair, the new ones, they float. And why do they float? A lot of open water swimmers kept telling us how much they loved it, but they were a little bit nervous, as if they lost it out there, would they find it? So we made them float. But it's a strapless design. It's not much bigger than your hand. And I always tell people my favorite drill to do is I'll do 50s or 100s, and I do odds with them on and evens with them off. And it just makes me a little bit more mindful of trying to make sure I catch as much water as I can when I have them off as when I do have them on. So I think that's really fun. And that's those are the products that we were giving away from the promo. And I look forward to listening to Glenn. Let's have a fun day.
Awesome. Thanks, John. So Glenn won the Olympic trials in 1980 when he was 18 years old. Unfortunately, that was the year of the boycott, and Glenn did not get to go to the Olympics. But since then, he's devoted his life to helping others achieve their goals, primarily by developing the largest searchable library of technical swim videos, which is a truly remarkable database. So first of all, I'm going to ask Glenn our first question, and then we're going to go into our icebreaker breakout rooms. So be prepared to introduce yourself. So Glenn, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Good, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. It's great to see, I see so many good friends in here, a couple Mikes and Merle, and so it's good to see that my friends showed up. Thank you.
So
you'll know the story.
Before I ask this first question, why don't you tell us where you are? Because for a while there, you were kind of hard to keep track of because you were on the road a while. So why don't you tell us where you are now and what were you doing on the road?
My wife Rachel was head coach of Asphalt Green in New York City, and when we decided to leave there, we bought an RV and spent a year and a half driving around the United States visiting swim teams. In that time, we filmed 10,000 lengths of video. We did evaluations on every one of them, and we learned kind of the pros and cons of the goods and the bads of what's going on in American swimming. We ended up in Scottsdale, Arizona. Rachel is now the associate head coach at Arizona State University with Bob Bowman. And I absolutely, in the whole country, this was the place that I loved the most. And so when she had the job offer from Bob, I couldn't encourage her more than to take it. And I love it here. And right now, as John, said, right out that window, they are finishing laying down the fake grass on my brand new Endless Pool Elite. So I teach in the backyard. I work in here. It's bad to say that I am really used to staying at home. I've been working from home for over 20 years now. So now even to go swimming, I don't have to leave my house. So this new life that we're all becoming used to, I guess all I can say is welcome to my world. So this is what I've been doing for a long time. But we'll talk about the pool a little bit more later, I think.
Fantastic. That's great. So Glenn, first question, since you could very well be the world's most experienced kind of technical expert with the number of analyses you've done with video. I think that's probably a fair statement. So with that in mind, what do you think is the hardest thing to communicate as a coach? What is the most challenging aspect, the technical aspect of swimming that you've had the most trouble articulating to swimmers?
Well, first of all, I've always believed that volume does not make you great. I could have done 10,000 evaluations all wrong and messed everybody up. So you always try to learn, and and if you think you're good at something, you're probably not as good as you should be. So you're always trying to get better. Going around the United States and really seeing young swimmers swim, there is so much anxiety about the next stroke that if we compare young swimmers or developing swimmers of any age to the Olympians or the elites, the thing that we miss is extension and body line. People are very, very aggressive in focusing on how much they pull, how fast they can pull. And so in youth and in developing swimmers, that length and the focus on full extension and full stroke is really not focused on enough. And we'll get into one of my favorite tools for fixing that when you asked the question, I think later, what are my favorite tools? And right here is one of them that can control it. So the line is so much more important than I think young swimmers understand. And so it's our job as teachers to say, okay, first the body line, first extension, cut through the water, and then we can build a stronger body around that. And then you can start to turn it over faster.
That's great. That's great. So with that, I want to move to our icebreaker breakout room. What we're going to do is we're going to pair you randomly with 4 other people. We're all swimmers. We're all friends. There are no strangers in swimming. And you are going to very quickly introduce yourself, say whether you're a swimmer or a coach, and if you have any team affiliations. And then in 1 minute, I want you to answer the following question. What is the most challenging thing you've dealt with technically in swimming as a swimmer or as a coach communicating that thing? So without further ado, our associate producer, Clarke, is going to pair us into breakout rooms, and you will get a pop-up notification on your screen. If you don't want to participate, you are under no obligation to. Simply turn your camera off, and then we will reconvene shortly and get to more questions with Glenn. Okay, we're slowly trickling back. How is everyone's breakout room? Is Glenn back with us yet? Hi, Merle.
Let's see.
Hi.
All right.
We're all coming back.
All right. Glenn, welcome back to the main room, everyone. So Glenn, if you can take yourself off mute, I have an important follow-up question. First, why don't you tell us what you heard in the room? Did you hear some familiar technical problems?
I did. I did. The gentleman that I was paired with had a very similar problem to myself in that he was a water polo player growing up and had a very choppy stroke. And it was similar to my freestyle growing up, just a lot of thrashing about. And it wasn't until I think both of our 30s where we decided that there's a better way to swim freestyle. So late bloomers from that standpoint, but learning how to kick and extend and rotate. So just a raw, horrible freestyle growing up, and you just muscled your way through it, and then eventually fixed it. So, but it takes a long time. It's like, I remember trying to get a 6-beat kick. It took me 3 months to do a 6-beat kick. My entire career had the crossover kick, you know, and nobody ever, they said, well, he stinks at freestyle anyway. He's a breaststroker. Don't spend any time fixing it. So nobody ever did, but.
That's great. So Glenn, tell us what GoSwim is. I mean, my guess is most of the people on this video chat have seen at least a GoSwim video, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds. And we all love your soothing voice when you say the finer points. That's my favorite. But why don't you just take a step back and tell us, why did you build GoSwim?
So when I got back into coaching in 1987, one of the tools, the first tool that I bought was a Sharp View Cam. Now, if you remember back in the late 80s, the Sharp View Cam was the first camera that had a video screen on the back of it. It's about a 4-inch screen. And I was coaching at Cleveland State University, and there was a hole, like this little door with a spiral staircase down to the underwater windows. And I would go down to the window, I would film the swimmers, I'd run up the stairs, and I'd have it queued up. And when they came to the wall, I'd have the camera turned around so they could see their stroke. So this was 1987, might be 88, but somewhere around there. And so I've been using video feedback for my entire career. I was on a video with Ernie McGlishko when I was a swimmer. And Ernie is a scientist and is a brilliant, brilliant mind. But he broke my stroke down in such a way that I didn't understand it. I saw things artistically, whereas Ernie saw things scientifically. And there's so much information out there from a science standpoint, I didn't think there was enough representation of the artistic side of the sport. The way that we've always done our videos, except for maybe the drills that I do, but the athlete videos are all a collaboration with the athlete. It is, I ask the athlete and Barbara asks the athlete, what are your 6 most important things? What do you feel when you swim? How do you approach this sport? So when you see the videos on the Olympians that we make, that's not my evaluation of that Olympian. That's the Olympian saying, these are the most important points to me. Because I know that I felt things different than what other people would feel. So I wanted to learn what all of those athletes felt. And then came the development of, and so tons of videos came out of this project. Then I wanted to make sure that coaches had a way to share video back, and that's why we developed Deck Shots when we did. Very simple program. You just film the swimmer, tap the swimmer's name, tap the stroke, and it sends it to them securely. Very quick, down and dirty sort of thing. That has now evolved into lane vision. So lane vision is now to the point where you can film the swimmer, get the technical data in that video and deliver that to the swimmer. So that is something that is the next iteration of what I started with. And coaches sometimes think they have to annotate everything. And the real point behind Deck Shots was show a GoSwim video, show a video of an Olympian or something really good, have the swimmers do that skill that afternoon, take a raw piece of video on them, send it to them, and then that swimmer is going to see the really good athlete and then themselves and do self-evaluation. And through the self-evaluation, that will enhance their knowledge. And so that's been the goal all along. But like I said, you get lane vision in there, and now you have data that you can equate a lot of this felt better. Oh, it was better. So not just the feeling of it. It's a little bit of both.
That's great. That's such a great synopsis of GoSwim. And for those of you who haven't been on the site, I encourage you to just go poke around. I just got off a call with the head of Gulf Swimming in Texas, and she was saying they desperately need content, and I immediately thought of GoSwim. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the functionality of coaches kind of scheduling courses where you can receive daily emails with a specific video designed to teach a specific thing? I think that's such a powerful tool.
The way the scheduling software works for coaches is that you can go from very general to very specific. If you go to courses, and let's say you picked out Matt Target's freestyle course or Brendan Hansen, you can just click one button. It says schedule this course, and you pick the days and when it'll start, and it'll automatically schedule 20, 30 videos over the next couple months. And so your swimmers will always be getting something. Whereas if you wanted something very specific, you can go to lessons, and lessons you can say, I want a freestyle swimmer. I want it to be an Olympian showing breathing. And it's going to bring up 100 videos. And you go down and say, well, I like this Ricky Barron's clip. I love his stroke. So you click that one video and say, send that to my swimmers on this day. So you can get as specific as you want, or you can get it as general as you want. Because the specific it's a lot more work for a coach. And so that's why we said, I have teams that say Monday is backstroke, Tuesday is breaststroke, and so on. And they say Aaron Pearsall Monday for the next 4 months, Brendan Hansen or Amanda Beard breaststroke for the next 3 months. Just clicking a couple buttons. You can schedule out 4 to 5 months of videos literally in about 5 minutes. And then the videos get delivered to the swimmers, you're watching them, they're watching them, you have conversations, and whether it doesn't sync up with that day's training, it doesn't matter. Eventually you're going to get around to those points anyway. That's the thing about our sport, it's repetition. So we tried to make the system as simple as possible, and it gets used a lot. We're up to, with everything going on now, we send about 2 million emails a month now from the system from coaches to swimmers. And so it's a big load, but we're really glad the system's being used.
Hey, Glenn, I want to give an kind of a similar situation here. I have 2 sons in college right now, and the one at University of Hawaii just told me, he said, Dad, this online learning is so different. We have the teachers that get on and they want to lecture and talk, and you sit behind the screen and you're kind of numb. He says, and then there's the teachers who they send out the information ahead of time, and we look at and we review the information. And when we show up on the screen for online communication, it's a real active conversation about what it is we're trying to learn. And I find a lot of parallel to what you do.
We started the system with what was called the flipped classroom, which is exactly what you're talking about, John. Is that when you look at the efficiency of coaching and the amount of time, and especially what everybody's experiencing now is the epitome of a lack of pool time. But everybody wants to make their pool time as efficient as possible. So the idea was move some of the technical teaching outside of the pool, send the swimmers videos, then have them practice that skill. And then the ones that needed help, because you don't have to explain what a drill is. You're wasting time if you're explaining the concepts of a drill during practice. They could be swimming, and swimming slowly with purpose is, there was a great ASCA talk last week with Greg Troy and Mark Schubert, and they both talked about, just swimming slowly with purpose. It does increase the yardage a little bit, but the swimmers can really do things well. And by doing that, there is strain and there's conditioning that gets done. So if the swimmers already have something in their head because you've sent it to them before practice, they get in and swim. And then the ones that are having problems, those are the ones you go and help. So it is that exact thing of kind of switching things around.
That's great. So Glenn, I know people have very specific issues, and sometimes they're really granular and specific to that individual. How would you recommend finding an appropriate video from your database to address that?
Well, that's where the beauty of the lessons comes in. The lesson is really every video, every chapter. If you can imagine, a DVD is set up into chapters. Every chapter in that DVD is really a lesson now. So when you go in, if there was a DVD that had 20 chapters in it, each one of them has a specific target to it. those are all tagged in the system. They have since day one. So you're going to find, again, it's probably going to be on my tombstone. I had no idea that the fine points was going to be such a big deal, but I'll be somewhere and they'll be, oh, you're the fine points guy. And I'm like, no, I'm a swim guy. But anyway, it is called, it's the stroke, then the expertise, and then the fine point. And that is where there's hundreds of tags in there that will, depending on what the search was before that, you can get really drilled down into a very specific subset of videos based on that, that specific need. And so that's already done, that's in there. And, we're like everybody else. We just built a new app and we have not released it. We're sitting on, a ton of work, but the new app will then also tie to the Apple Watch from a rudimentary standpoint, get some data, and through that data, suggest videos for you. And we will move into more of an AI-based system. We thought Q2, it's probably gonna be Q4 now before we, can release this and get it out there. But, just moving into the autonomous suggestions of videos based on what your data comes back in the Apple Watch. So we are trying to move that forward as well.
Right. So Glenn, since you're sitting on this amazing database of not only the videos themselves, but what people are searching for, what are you seeing are some of the most common problems people are trying to address with their stroke based on the search data in your database?
So, freestyle is always the top. Freestyle is always the top, and everybody wants to swim fast freestyle, but that's one of the things that we learned on the trip, a year and a half on the road. Many coaches are coaching about a year to 2 years ahead of where the skill set of that athlete is. And so we try to pull people back a little bit, and we end up suggesting balance more than, like the Christian Guillemet course, where people want to see the fastest swimmer in the world. Okay, well, here's the second fastest swimmer, but here's the balance and the core stability exercises that he uses. So there's somebody asked a question on the website the other day about, I've got backstrokers that bounce. I really didn't have a good answer for that because I don't work with swimmers that really have that issue. Most of the people that come to me now are pretty advanced swimmers, and we're fine tuning things. So I reached out to Steve Hoffler. And so Steve and I had a conversation, and I put a couple of his drills in there. And then I got more stuff. Then Margaret Holcher wrote me, and then Steve wrote me another one. So I'm going to do a follow-up video for that. But it all kind of comes back to, if you're having problems with something, go back to the basics. Go back like 4 or 5 steps, reestablish your balance, reestablish your line, and then start building forward again. And people want to just move forward. They want to, how's my pull? How's my kick? Well, it doesn't make any difference if the line isn't there. So, so I always end up, I think I've done like 4 or 5 or 6 of these videos from the backyard pool, and people send in questions, and 80% of them come back to the same thing. It's about balance. So,
yep. So that brings me to my next question. What I love about your videos is they're not just swimmers swimming really fast or expertly. You're educating people about drills. And there are a lot of really good, interesting drills. What's a drill that seems kind of goofy or silly or fun, but really has an important lesson behind it? Do you think of a good drill?
That's goofy. I try to stay away from too many goofy things, and that's the, some of the stuff like from Jonty Skinner that really messes with people's minds is a paddle on one hand, a fin on the other foot, and dragging a sponge behind the leg of another foot. So it's throwing the body off balance in order to teach balance. I tell you, the goofiest drill that I do, and it's torturous for people. I believe in this tool more than just about anything. This is in every lesson I teach, and I have one particular. I think it's by a company called Finis. It's the tempo trainer. Okay, so this is in every lesson I teach, and I've got one kid that comes in every Sunday, and I say, look, if you don't do this right, he calls it the beep beep, and he says the beep beep drives him crazy. I said, well then swim right, no beep beep. But so I was teaching someone a 6-beat kick once, and so we set up one rhythm, And I actually had 2 tempo trainers in the head, one on each side. One was beep, 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 and the other was beep, 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 beep. It was like a polka, okay? And so from that, I work with people on finding the rhythm and things. And so I'll end up putting 2 tempo trainers in, one at one rate, one at a completely non-related rate. Okay, I'll work with them for a while, and then I'll just have 2 tempo trainers going at the same time, but totally non-related. And they go, wait, which one am I supposed to listen to? And I said, now, grasshopper, it's time to block out everything else and find your rhythm. So, to the point where you're going to drive somebody crazy, but at the same time, just like in a race, you have to block things out and you have to focus on what you're doing. Don't let things distract you. So, so anyway, it's, not too many crazy things, but I do like messing with people's minds with this thing. So
I love that. So the next thing we're going to do is go into one more breakout room. And this time I want people to answer the question, how they're using video right now. Because I think a lot of people, we do have a lot of coaches in this session. And I think most coaches have probably experimented with video in some aspect, whether they're sending out your videos or they're recording their kids or they're using our new product, Lane Vision. But I want to do a breakout and just say, how have you used video either as a swimmer or as a coach? And then we'll come back and hear from Glenn some tactical advice for how they should be using it. Come back.
Yep.
Welcome back, Glenn. How'd it go in your room?
Good. I had the same guy one more time, but we did have a few other people in there. So the first time it was just John and I. So,
well, that's okay. Well,
it was good.
Figuring this out. We're playing with this new technology, and I think we're on to something. So
yeah, I like it.
Your feedback, everyone's feedback after the session. So Glenn, tell us how people are using video today and how they should be using it.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of filming. People ask me, do I have to film underwater? Can I just use my phone above water? And obviously before Lane Vision, I would say the worst, if you go in order, underwater video is the best, above water video is second, and the worst video is no video. And so people would, because they couldn't do underwater and they couldn't write on the screen and do all the annotation, they would just not do anything. And I find that any video, kids love to watch themselves swim. Masters love to watch themselves swim. It's very good feedback. It's very easy to do. But now with Lane Vision, there really is no excuse because you're getting data from above water, usable data from above water. So it makes it very, very easy. So again, GoSwim is a good way for people and coaches either learning as an individual. What are the ways that I can learn a better stroke, or as a coach, this is what I want you to do. And so it's pretty much, you have to go both ways. You have to show them what you want to do and you have to show them what they look like.
Yep.
And so it's a before and after.
So I didn't prepare for this, but you've brought it up twice now, our new product, Lane Vision, and we actually had the creator, the engineer who built the software behind it. And so, you've been a part of kind of building that, figuring out how to bring it to market. Why don't you just tell us at a really high level why you think it kind of changes the game with video?
Again, the simplicity of the collection of video is going to be goal number one. When I make a video, I'm using 3-4 cameras, okay? And I'm underwater, holding my breath. I got nose plugs on, weights around my neck, fins. Marilee's in here. Marilee is the star of the new app, one of the 2 stars of the new app. And so she'll tell you, we'll spend 3 hours filming, and I'll spend 15 minutes of that 3 hours breathing. The rest of the time I'm underwater on my back, and it's not easy, but it's easy when you have great models and great swimmers. But you can't ask people to do that. They need the tool that you have in your pocket is got to be the best tool. You don't have to go out and buy something else. You're using what you have already in your hands. And now you don't have to put it underwater. If you can do some underwater filming, that's cool. but to just walk down the side of the pool and get video, but also have data embedded in that video, it's going to continue to evolve to become incredibly accurate. And it's, you got to start with just using the system, and you'll get better at using the system. But it's so simple to capture it and then, share it with the athlete, which is where it ultimately needs to reside.
I think that's right on, because capturing the video does take some work if you don't have a kind of plug and play app-based solution, because you have to edit it, and then it's just raw footage. There's no data, so you have to store it somewhere where you remember what it is, tag it appropriately, and then only then can you begin the analysis. But if you record it in an app that captures the basic data, stroke rate, distance per stroke, tempo, then you're off to a great start. So that's great. Thanks for the Lane Vision plug, Glenn.
Absolutely.
I love it. So speaking of toys, I mean, I know you're a big proponent of working with gear, we call them toys, but they are serious technical tools. But why don't you just talk us through, without any biases? It's okay if you bring up non-Finis product. But what toys do you like, Glenn?
Look, if you go to my swim lessons website, which I didn't really have to announce because there was pretty good demand for the pool right now. It's only Finis products because they're very functional. But I'd say in order, the snorkel is so important for all swimmers, and learning how to use a snorkel. Marilyn will tell you when it comes out, we have lessons in this new app. It's targeted more towards fitness, masters, triathletes. So it's a kind of a different market for us. But there's like 4 steps in learning how to use your snorkel. And so we take everybody through that because there are people that don't know how to use a snorkel. So we very slowly step through, here's how you use your snorkel. Because when you take breathing out of the equation, you can really show someone how easy it is to swim beautifully. And then once they have that balance and that great feeling, you can start to work on rotational breathing. So a lot of people don't want to start right from the beginning. They want to start to swim. And so the snorkel not only stabilizes that person, it gives them something to look at, but they can get air as easily as they want. And then all the way up to, say, Rachel swimmers at ASU and Bob Bowman swimmers at ASU, why do they spend so much time using snorkels? Well, it's to take the pressure off the shoulders while they're breathing, so they can have a more stable stroke while they're swimming. So the snorkel, I think, is the most important tool and one that I use every time I get in my pool. So the snorkel is a staple that it's, that old saying, never leave home without it. So that's always with me. The tempo trainer, as I said, is involved in every lesson that I teach, every lesson. So you can imagine in the endless pool, I can control the water speed. I can set it at a constant. With the tempo trainer, I can set the stroke rate at a constant. And then I can start playing with either one of those. So we have sets. This new pool is so cool. The whole thing's run by an app. Okay. I can program in the water speed to change, and it just changes. Now I take that swimmer and say, you're not allowed to change your rate. And I take them until failure. So let's say they start at 115 and they have a stroke rate at 115. Then after 10 seconds, it switches to 112, 109, 106, 103. All of a sudden you see the legs start coming in. You see the throw starting to go forward until they can't hold it anymore. Well, what we've done is we've taught them through that process how to become a little better. When they get to failure, we either speed up the tempo or we slow down the water. And so we just go through that about 15, 20 times until they can't move anymore. So it's a lot of fun. Technique work is not easy. And then personally, for me, a little older, not so intense anymore, just want to get in and swim. My streaming audio player with my Apple Watch behind my cap is fantastic. So I can actually stream audio. I started listening to podcasts and it got a little hard because I didn't know what they were going to say. Whereas if you put music on and you know the music, I have slow playlists for breaststroke and elegance. And then I have faster playlists for freestyle and if I want to get some training in. And I just put the Apple Watch in the back of my cap, and I put the streaming audio player under my cap right here, and then it's bliss. So I'm just swimming, zoning out, listening to music, and getting some exercise.
That's great. Glenn, we're gonna ask you for the playlists you use, and I'll share them in the show notes.
The first Swim P3 player that I had, I was in New York City, I think. And so I was wearing it, and an older swimmer came up and they said, "What is that thing?" And I said, "Well, it's got music on it." And they said, "Can I listen to it?" And I said, "Sure." So I put it on, and she swam down and back, and she says, "Oh my gosh, does it have any other music on it?" And I said, "Well, you put your own music." It was Metallica and Disturbed, and it was all this really heavy, hard rock. And so I don't think she had the same taste in music that I did, but that was an intense day. So
that's great. I know it's a magical thing listening to music underwater. I think a lot of people might be purists, but if you can kind of get over that and do it, the sound is miraculous. The bone conducting technology makes the sound really incredible.
I have a theory from music, because Rachel and Bob, the swimmers, get to pick their music, and then certain days they're just cranking music on deck. The tri team that I work with at ASU, they're cranking music on deck. It's got to be the right situation. I think that if every kid had one of those with a real intense playlist, listening to the music that they choose rather than somebody else or the coach, I think the sport becomes more enjoyable. It's just
right,
the coach has to.
I have to dive in and tell a story, because at one time, Glenn reached out to me and he said, "Hey, John, it's Brian Goodell's birthday next week. Will you do me a favor? I want you to take one of your bone conduction music players and put Radar Love on it and send it to him and say happy birthday from Glenn." And so we did that, right? And
Yep.
I think you told me the story that was the song going through Goodell's head before he would race.
Yeah,
That's what he trained with.
3 gold medals, 1 champion, or 3 champions, 1 gold medal. That book made me listen to Radar Love when I was training distance growing up. So that's amazing.
It was a good move, because now he's the mayor of Mission Viejo. So if we ever get, we can go there and have a good time and not get in trouble.
That's amazing. I love that. So Glenn, we're putting out content on a weekly basis while people are sheltering in place. They can't necessarily swim. I think it's a good time to really engage the community. But there's also, some sadness here. There are people who are missing their big meets. Beyond swimming, they can't, kids graduating from high school, they can't go to prom, they can't graduate. And it's really tough. You're someone who's dealt since you were 18 years old with profound disappointment, and that is, not 100% parallel, but is relevant right now. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that and any ideas you have for coping mechanisms?
So, we all have to deal with these things in our own way, and I think it's important for people to understand that the boycott in 1980, when we didn't go to the Olympics, as well as what the young people and all of us are going through right now, this is completely out of our control. And so because of that, if we dwell on what we're missing, then it's going to drive us crazy. So we have to say, okay, what can I do today that is going to move me forward to the next goal that I have? We're in a situation, it is what it is. In 1980, there was nothing we could do. And so there were different types of people. Some people just immediately refocused and got back to work. Okay. Easy to do back then, because you could go to the pool. Other people, it was the end of their career. That was it. And so 1980, when they missed it, they hung on until then, and then didn't go, that was it. They were done. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of the senior swimmers, and the kids that can't go to graduation and weddings and all the stuff that's fallen apart. You don't know that you're not going to be able to finish that. And so I know for me that when I missed the team in 84, it's when it really hurt more, the 1980 thing. But I had to look back, and I guess a great way to say it is my dad gave me a sign that I had in college, and it was something that I put in my room. And it was a quote by Jesse Owens. And the quote was, "It's not the Olympics that make the Olympian, it's the preparation." And so I always took a lot of pride in that. I did the work that I set out to do. I accomplished the goal. And I think what people need to remember, especially for this past season, the work is 99.9% of your season. The race is one little thing. And if your entire person or self or season is defined by that one race, and I get not being able to prove what you worked for, but you have to take pride in the work that you did. And because, you know, it's hard saying this to some of the people in this group, you're not going to make your living in swimming, except for a few of us. You know, so we're trying to teach these people lessons that they will be advantaged, you know, as they get older. You know, and those of us that are master swimmers that missed seasons and things like that, you know, hey, it's good news for all of us, because we'll just be a year older the next time we can swim, which is the whole goal of master swimming. So
That's great. Those are great words. I mean, it really is about the journey.
yeah.
The race is a small fraction. I think that's so true. Wonderful. So I think we're going to start to wrap up, but Glenn, why don't you give us some advice? So if I'm going to go on GoSwim TV right now, what should I do? What's the first thing I should do?
So first, create an account. Right now, we've opened everything up for free. We're trying to give back to the community. It's been about 6 weeks now, and we're going to have to make some decisions in the next week or so whether we continue it, because there are financial matters that come up. It's a large site. It costs a lot of money to run it. So we're doing our best, but go for at least another week. Get in there and just start looking around. So it's a free account. Even if we switch back to the pay model, we will send you a video every day for free. Okay, so we always do that, and we have done that, you know, for a long, long time. But go into courses and pick your stroke, and then pick your ability level, and find a course that you can just sit and watch through the whole thing. It's like watching a DVD. Or if you have a favorite Olympic athlete that happens to be in our system, go to backstroke, pull down freestyle, go to Jason Lezak, watch Jason Lezak talk about how he swims freestyle. So there's some great athletes in the platform. And if you're interested in an endless pool, there's a whole chapter in there, and especially new stuff that I'm doing at the pool out back here. And yes, I see something just popped up. If you go to lessons and go over to find points and pull down dry land, there's at least 100 exercises in there. And I've just finished a contract with Giles Smith, a great butterflyer, that we will be doing a whole series of dryland exercises. Hopefully we'll film that this week in my backyard. So it'll just be very low key in the backyard, just waiting for the grass to be finished. And so there'll be a lot of new dryland content coming from a great, great athlete.
Fantastic. So Glenn, I think we're going to wrap up. I really appreciate you spending the time on this hour. I think we learned something. I learned something about video, and hopefully we made some friends today in the breakout rooms. It's great to see everyone's faces, and thanks for tuning in to FINIS Friday, and we hope to see you again next Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
everybody.
All right, thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Quinn. See you, John. Bye, Marley. Bye, Mike. And Mike Collins.